I flipped the valve and I did hit the button just to make sure it was going to pump before I came back to you guys, because I haven't tried any of this. So. Welcome back to the channel in this special episode of the cargo trailer camper conversion. Today's episode is a little bit different because it's out of order. Here we are in the first week of November, and actually the trailer's been completely finished. All the test camps have been done, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to air this episode now because it's kind of relevant to the time of the year it is. So today we're going to go over winterizing both the electrical systems, the plumbing systems, and everything else that I feel you need to winterize in your cargo trailer camper conversion. Boy, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So let's get on with it. Hope you enjoy. So I'm probably going to do it a little bit differently than what a lot of people do it. You can see I've got my air tank here with me, and it's got some compressed air in it. We're going to be using that for a few things. And I've got my antifreeze. I probably use way more than what I need to, but I've got kind of a unique situation going on with the shower pump. So I will need quite a bit, and we'll go over that. I also like to use the ethanol free. It's about twice as much, but from everything I understand, it's a lot better for your system as the years go by. So I'm going to get things opened up, and we'll go through this step by step, and I'll let you know the way I winterize an RV and my cargo trailer camper. And it may be different than the way other people do it, but you know what? That's what makes the world go around. So let's get started. All right, as you can see, I've taken the panel off here. And the first thing I'm going to do in this process is I'm actually going to remove the hot water heater. Now, I talked about this back when it used to be up on top and how hard it would be to deal with in winterizing. Down here, I think it's going to be a lot easier. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to disconnect the hot and cold lines from it, and I'm going to insert this nipple between them. That way it acts as the bypass, basically. Instead of putting an elaborate valve system in, etc., to bypass this hot water heater, when I need to pull it out anyway, this way I can do it. Because there is no other way of draining this residential style hot water heater, which, by the way, I happen to love. It works great. So I'm going to be disconnecting the black hose there. Pop off, a lot of people call it, and we'll be taking the hoses off and putting a nipple in there so we can start the winterizing process. All right, so we got the pop off taken off, we got these hot and cold disconnected, and we got the nipple put in. So we are ready to pull the hot water heater out and drain it. All right. So there we go. So now we need to just let that go and drain. And we'll be able to set it right back in there for the winter. And it ought to be safe to be there, all drained out. All right, so as that's going through the draining process, the next thing I'm going to do, there's one part of this that I feel that a lot of people miss. And it's this short little hose right here between your city water connection and this check valve. And whether you do it yourself or you have an RV built, there's going to be something similar to that. Well, that hose has got water in it. And the typical way you winterize an RV by pumping antifreeze using the pump is totally going to miss that. And that's going to have water in it. So that's why I have the air tank, the air line, and some adapters to take care of this. So we're going to be blowing that out with air. We'll blow as much as we can out of the whole system. Then we'll introduce the antifreeze into it. So another thing I've done is I've opened the valve for the gray tank, and I've raised the tongue of the trailer way up, because once I start running that water through there, I'm going to want it to come out. I don't want it to be in the lines or the gray tank. So here's what I've got. I got this little adapter. I've got a couple of these. I've had it years at home for blowing out my sprinkler systems and my hoses. So this basically is just the air hose adapter coupler through several adapters to a hose fitting. So I've got it attached there. We're going to hook some air up to it, and we're going to blow this out. All right, so we got it turned on. You really need to try not to exceed your 50 to 60 psi on your tank though when you fill it, so you don't damage your system. So I've got a bunch of hose here, so I ought to be able to just walk right over with this and connect it to my system here. And there we go, it's alive. I've got air on it. So I go inside now, and I ought to be able to push air through my system and drain these lines out quite a bit. So let's go to the sink, put some lights on in here, get some stuff out of the sink here. I could hear it from outside even. There we go. We know we've blown out that city water now. Let's go back here, turn on our pump, which is pumping water up there. There we go. Those are blown out. One more to go. Blow out our toilet. There wouldn't be a whole lot here, quite honestly. It would already pretty much be done because the line going back to the shower would empty that. All right, so the system is pretty much empty from that point back. Of course, we still need to push antifreeze from down here at the tank up through the pump, through the tank back here, the accumulator tank, and then out through the whole system, because I'm still going to fill the system with antifreeze. I just really wanted to make sure I got ahead of the curve as I can, and I wanted to empty that small line out, because like I said, I know for years, winterizing my RVs years ago, I always forgot about that. Now, thankfully it never busted, but it certainly could have. So, all right, this hot water tank's about drained out. We're done with the air. Yep, hot water tank is drained out. We'll let it sit there for a little while, but we will get this air disconnected. Looks like it's just still dripping. Looks like I might have had a little bit of a leak on that hot water tank. That's interesting. Never noticed that during the course of the year, but it is rusty there. Wasn't much, because if it was a big leak, you'd see it, the rust out here extended out on the white. I didn't see anything, so. Or behind it. No. All right, I'll get that air disconnected and we'll get ready to start pumping some antifreeze. Okay, so I did find with this hot water heater, I actually had to put it upside down to get it all drained out. And I'll tell you what, once I balanced it there, and it's okay where it's at, I had probably another gallon of water come out. So if you got one similar to this one, I know a lot of people use these eco tanks. If you're winterizing, make sure you flip it upside down to get everything out of it. I'm glad I did, because like I said, I got at least another gallon. Now, I don't know if that would have hurt it over the winter, but I'm not taking any chances. These things are expensive. So, and it's a great hot water heater. It's amazing. I really like it. Okay, so we got the hot water heater put back there. Of course, it is still disconnected from the line because we're going to winterize. So you can see I got my jug here. I put my winterizing kit on. I flipped the valve, and I did hit the button just to make sure it was going to pump before I came back to you guys, because I haven't tried any of this, so I wanted to make sure. I also made sure that the water tank was completely drained again, or as much as possible. And I also ran the pump one more time to see if I could pick up any water off the system, which I did not do, which is a good sign the tank is empty. So, and I don't see anything on the bottom. All right, so I am going to go ahead and start this process. You can see I'm picking it up now. It is filling and repressurizing the system. I'll tell you what, these C-Flow pumps work great. They really do. Now the system was empty, so it's really going to pull a lot in there. You can even see it's pink right up to the bottom of that check valve, but it's not going past there. All right, so we've reached a point where the system is repressurized. It's gone through all the areas it needed to go through. So we're going to go ahead, hit the cold water, and of course, as you see, we got water right off the bat because the pump did pump some more up there through the accumulator. And we've got antifreeze coming out of the cold water. Okay. Of course, you got a little bit of water that's coming through. And we're going to be pumping this down. And I like to stop when it just gets close, so I don't have to reprime the pump. Because what I will use with these now is I will use these to dump in the drains. All right, let me get another jug hooked up and we'll keep moving forward. So I ended up taking the hose off the valve down there and then putting the winterizing hose over here right at the pump. And it took a few seconds and it sucked it right up. And it went ahead and started pumping. So I don't know whether it just couldn't get enough head pressure drawing it out of that bottle, because that would be a lot different than what the tank is providing some head pressure for the pump. So this may be the way I have to winterize it. It's not a big deal to pull this fitting off and just go ahead and put the hose directly on the pump filter there. So I'm going to continue to go ahead, get the pump on, and said it's pumping really good now. That looks pretty good there. I think we're going to go over to the toilet. Oh yeah. We got the good pink stuff right away. There we go. We got the toilet bowl full of the good old pink stuff. Got just a little bit left. I think in this one we'll go ahead and start doing the shower. Let's get this sponge picked up first. Comes the cold. There comes the pink stuff. And we better shut that off. Go take a look at our bottle. Oh, it's almost there. I think we're going to stop there on that bottle. Put the other bottle in. All right, so we got a fresh bottle on there. And let's start getting the hot water now. There we go. That is the pink stuff. There we go. We're good and pink on both. And there goes the pump. And that's going to be another thing we got to address. So we got the toilet. It's all set. Shower's been pumped. Sink has been pumped really well through. It's hot and cold we're doing there at the same time. By the way, I've got that set. Well, it sure does flash the lights. All right, that's good. So now I got 3 jugs here. Setting here, and what I'm going to do with these jugs is I think we got more than enough here, but I've really got to get the shower. I got to get a lot of the antifreeze in the shower because I've got to get that pump in the back full of antifreeze in the line that goes all the way up here. I got to get that line filled up so we're not going to have a frozen line. But you can see all the lines under there now. They all look really good and full of the good pink stuff. All right, I'm going to get these poured in the drain then. And again, I've got the pump on. I think you can hear the pump running. So I'm going to continue doing that until I get a bunch put in there. So there's my line that goes to the shower back there. You can see it going in, hopefully I got it, into the Y fitting for the gray tank. So I'll make sure I get in there. All right, so I want to really make sure I get that pump in the back emptied out. If that were to freeze up solid, that would be a catastrophe. I'd ruin a $200 pump. So I'm going to do something a little crazy. I'm actually going to go ahead and just dump that there. I'm going to let that run. And we're going to watch. See it all turn pink there? Hopefully you're seeing that. Ought to hear it run again here in a second. There we go. So to me it looks like it's pushing all antifreeze now. So that's going to be pretty definite that we got that at this point. Make sure we get it all. There's a lot of pipe under there to fill. Of course, we'll deal with cleaning the pink stuff next year because you don't want to use any water or anything on it now. And this good stuff, it doesn't stain. Never been my experience anyway. All right. Well, I think that does it for that pump. Shut that off. That is winterized. Call that a done deal. Toilet is winterized. Make sure it doesn't get used for winter camping now. That would be a bad thing. All right, so we have taken care of the plumbing system. As far as winterizing goes, it seems as though when I filmed the electrical system winterization, I didn't have my mic on. So I'm going to have to narrate this one the best I can today. So please forgive me for this little faux pas. So let's get at it and let's get the electrical system winterized. So going inside, you can see I took all the doors off of the electrical area so we could get to the batteries. Got everything taken out of it. Next, we're going to take off the platform where the Delta Pro is set so we can get in and disconnect all the batteries. That way we can get everything pulled out easily without having any struggles. Okay, so we've got the deck taken off so we can get access down to the batteries and all the cables. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking off one cable at a time off of the battery terminals, and we will be insulating the battery terminals one at a time as we take them off. Now the first thing we're going to do is we will make sure to shut off on the right hand side there that battery disconnect switch. That way we don't have any power on during the time. Well, we don't have any power to the main system during the time we're doing that. So you will also see that all the batteries are strapped down with that strap that goes all the way across. If you had watched when I put the batteries in, you'd have seen how I strapped all them down. So we'll have to remove that, and we will have to go through one at a time and remove the cabling from the batteries, insulate them, and pull them out one at a time. Now, all the batteries are connected with exactly 36 inches of cable. They are paralleled. So taking them out, it really isn't important that they get the exact same cable put back. And then I think there I'm showing the Class S fuse I have in the system there. So once we disconnect it, it will disconnect all the power going through. And it will disconnect the power from the Servo GX once it's all disconnected, so I will have no remote anymore. All right, so we are ready now to get this disconnected and start taking it apart. So we're going to go ahead and flip the disconnect switch here. But as you notice, all the lights still stay on in the coach. It's because the MPPT controller is still feeding power to the coach. So I believe what I'm going to do is shut this breaker off here in a second, and you will see everything goes dark. It's because now I've shut the disconnect off from the solar panels to the MPPT controller. But I still need light in here to see what's going on. So I'm going to turn that back on, as you see, and here the light comes back on. So right now we do have light in the camper trailer conversion because the MPPT controller is giving us 12 volt power, enough to run the lights. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start disconnecting the batteries. I've got my small wrench here, my nice little torque wrench, my Tecton, and I'm going to go through and start taking these off. And then you see I've got Scotch's 33 Plus. That is the only thing as an electrician I would ever use to insulate these lugs like this, to make sure that they are insulated well enough to where they wouldn't arc or touch metal or something. Although there isn't a lot of chassis ground down there to touch, we're still going to really insulate these things. And of course, we'll do just the opposite when we put it back in the spring. All right, so we got the first battery pulled out, and you can see I put the Velcro strap on it so it's easy to carry. That's a nice touch with the EcoFlows. And as you can see, I've really taped my lug up here, and then what I do is I make sure I leave a tail on it, and I do that by wrapping it and then twisting the tape to leave that tail so I can get that off in the spring, because nothing worse than having to take a knife and to try to get that thing off. That's something you don't want to do. It's not a good idea. You can score the insulation or put scores on the lug. Just not a good idea. So we got the first battery out, all insulated off. Now we're going to move on to the other batteries. All right, so I've got the batteries all pulled out, got their straps on them so I can move them. As you can see, I took off all the straps that were on them, so boy, I can see where I've dropped a lot of stuff in over the past year. So with everything being cleared out there, I'll be able to put the top back on. You can see that the Servo GX is now down and things are pretty much clear in the area. Of course, we still got the solar breaker on for the MPPT. That's how we still have light. You can see the disconnect is off. So the next thing we'll do is we'll get the top put back on and we'll talk about the adjustments in the electrical system we will make for the winter season. Because remember, we're still going to try to take some winter campouts here. Okay, so we got the platform put back on in the electrical area and we got the Delta 2 hooked up and plugged into the power system to provide the 120 volts to the 120 volt system in the camper. So we're going to use this to power it up and then we're going to power up the Blue Smart Charger. Now here you can see on the Blue Smart Charger on the function at the top in the right hand side it says charger. So what we're going to do is change that to power supply through its drop down menu. Now we're providing 30 amps to the trailer. So here it is now, we're showing it in power supply mode and there you go. We now have this system set up to provide power that the batteries were providing during the winter season. So we can just bring along a Delta Pro, or I'm sorry, not the Delta Pro, but the Delta 2, and we can use it to go ahead and power the system. We can also still use the solar panels because we can use them to charge the Delta 2 either through the 12 volt system or we can use the EcoFlow alternator charger to charge them if we're taking in enough. So there you go, kind of our workaround to keep the 12 volt system up and running during the winter months when we're out camping with us and we have all of our 12 volt batteries and our big power stations removed. Removing my breakaway battery for the winter is also another important part of the electrical winterization I do. Some people may argue and say you can leave these batteries in all winter. Well, you probably could. They'll probably be okay, but not me. I take these things out. Over the years, I've seen too many of these things froze and they cracked, and we can get some cold temperatures here. So I pull mine out, take it home, store it with everything else. And if I do decide that I'm going to do a winter camp, I'll just have to make sure to put it back in. But that'll be easy to remember because I don't pull this until I check the voltage on the battery. So one of the additional electrical winterizations I do that probably a lot of people don't even think about is their solar panel connections on the roof. So I've got a ladder set up over here. We're going to go up and we're going to take a look at this. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So we got some leaves up here. Like most people, I do have my solar connectors and my fuses, because I have fuses in line, just kind of setting up here on the roof. I don't like the idea of taping these down. I don't like the idea of strapping them down. Very simply because if I do, where they're strapped or taped, then you run a risk of having an issue on the roof. Now, they're not long enough to go anywhere or to fall off. I wouldn't leave them like that. And where they are longer, you see I have them tie wrapped so they won't. Now they've been on several trips already and I haven't had any issues with them. But what I am going to do, I'm going to use some dielectric grease here. And this dielectric grease I'm going to put in each one of the fittings. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, hopefully I've got you in camera there really well. So as I open one of these, you will see inside, any of you that are familiar with the MC4 connectors, there's a pin in there and then a pin on that side. So I essentially like to take the female side and I put a little bit of dielectric grease in there, not a whole lot. Then I stick it back in. Do the same on the next one. Little dielectric grease in there. Oh, it helped to take the cap off, wouldn't it? There we go. Wonder what was wrong. Stick it back in. Okay, so on the other side of these, the same thing. On the other side of these fuse holders, I hope I got that to where you can see it. Same thing. I'm going to stick a little dielectric grease in there. Stick it back in. Same thing here. Stick a little grease in there. Stick it back in. This prevents corrosion on these, especially during the winter, because there could be ice setting up there. There could be all sorts of things. Now, theoretically, these connectors are watertight and you're not going to have any problems. Theoretically. So, some of these then require the tool, and I've got this really handy serpent tool here that works real well. So this one shouldn't. Yeah. Maybe I got to use the tool on this one. Yep. See, this thing is great. It's made by Racketeers and it's called the Serpent. You can get it on Amazon. And it really does great for getting these things apart. So again, you will just continue on doing these one at a time until you get all of them. This one right here, when you get this connector here, this is the booger. This one, and I hope you can see it, you got to stick the serpent in and then it pulls apart. And without this tool, you will not get those apart. Pretty much guarantee it. We put the dielectric grease in, put them together. All right, so I'm going to continue on with all those, get all these, and I'm going to get the ones on the other side, and then all my connectors are going to be protected. So before I go over to the other side to get the other ones over there, the other thing I try to do right before winter, with any RV I've ever owned, is while I'm up here on the roof, I really like to go through and I like to inspect all the seams. Now, on a cargo trailer like this, there are a lot of seams. And as you can see, already last year I had some areas that I had questioned. I had seen some screws that were a little higher than what I liked. So I went ahead and I put some of the tape on here. I believe this is the Gorilla tape. In the spring, I fully plan to go through this entire roof, look at it really good, and I plan to probably do the Henry's Tropicool on it. But one of the things I will be doing today is going over just as much of the roof as I can see and get to, making sure I don't see anything that looks like an issue. And again, this trailer's still less than a year old, but you know, it doesn't take much. You know, you're at the camping spot, stuff's falling on the roof. These things are, as I've said a million times, are rolling dumpsters. And it's just, it's horrible how bad, you know, things move and shift. And like right here, look at this. This almost looks to me like a place where you might get a little water infiltration through one of the screws. And I'm not blaming R&R for this. What I am saying is any cargo trailer, anybody that has an RV, the roof is your responsibility. That's my feeling. You know, once you roll it off their lot, it is up to you to maintain the roof. They made it as good as they could coming off of the factory floor, but the reality is, they can't possibly guard against every eventuality that happens going down the road. All right, so I'm going to get across, get the other side finished, and we'll finish our roof inspection. So I've finished up all my solar connectors on the roof, and I've gone over the rear of the trailer looking for any irregularities in the roof. Everything looks pretty good, other than the patches I'd put on it back in the spring. When I was putting up the solar panels, I noticed, and I gotta stress this, there's never been a leak in this trailer. It was my paranoia. It is my taking the responsibility of maintaining the roof very seriously. Again, it's your responsibility. So let's take a look at the part I think is one of the most critical. The leaks I've had in RVs over the years have always been here. They have always been on the roof fan. Now, I would say R&R really went nuts with the lab sealant here. I think this thing is real well sealed. Yeah, I think so. Same way with the nose, the back. For the most part, they did really good. It's just like I said, like here, you can see the way you can see this screw almost protruding. I did talk to them about this and they said they hadn't had any issues with it, but eventually what I will do next spring is I will get the same, they use a 3M tape. They gave me the number for it, and I'll probably get some more of that, and I will put another lap of that tape over the entire thing. And then I will go ahead and probably do the Henry's Tropicool. I will make sure they're compatible though. I don't want to put the Tropicool over the top of something it's not going to stick to. So I will have to do a little research there. But as you can see, it still looks pretty good, I would say. All right. I think that does it on the roof for us. Everything looks good up here that I can see, and you know, I am one of those people, I'm close to the trailer, so I'll probably be coming out here once a week, once every 10 days or so, or I'll take a walk through it to make sure there are no leaks inside or anything, especially this first year. Then I hope to be in the desert years afterwards and there'll be little or no rain to worry about. All right, so now I've got to go through step by step and look for anything in here I think may freeze. So obviously like the water jug, Listerine, although that's not going to freeze, but I'll still take it. My water bottle, the Dawn, the soap. I'll just have to go through step by step and grab anything. I think the first aid kit is probably going to have to come down because I believe there are things in there that will freeze. So I'm going to go through the trailer, step by step, finding all the things. Now the Keurig doesn't have a water reservoir. It'll be fine here during the winter. I have a Keurig at home, outside on my deck, in a little cabana I have out there, and it does fine every winter. So I know they're good to go for the winter. The last step I do in the winterization process of my cargo trailer camper conversion is I go ahead and I install the Damp Rid moisture absorber. So I've got the 3 2-pound buckets here. I get these at my local big box store. I find that they're less expensive than what it is to get them like at Amazon or online. So what I will do is I will put in 2 of these right off the bat, and I will monitor them, and I will see how it goes, how much dampness they're taking out of the air, and I'll either recharge them or I'll add the 3rd one as I go through the winter to make sure I keep the moisture out of here. So that's about it. That's how I winterize my cargo trailer camper conversion. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll go ahead and leave a comment if you agree, disagree. I hope you'll go ahead and subscribe, ring that bell, and like this video if you liked it. So I hope you join me for the remainder of the cargo trailer build, and we will see you later.